What's up, everyone? I'm Anthony Gallegos, editor on the PC channel here at IGN. With me is Nick Colin, our associate PC editor, as well as MMO specialist.
How are you doing, everyone?
So, we're here to talk about the Diablo 3 skill calculator, which everyone can go access on Blizzard's website. And me and Nick have been plotting out the classes we plan on building. I'm going to be playing a witch doctor, and Nick is planning on playing a monk. So we're going to kind of go through here and plot out how we're going to build out our characters at level 10, 20, and 30, because that's when you get passive skills that are pretty important. So right off the bat, at level 1, you have very few access. You only have access to 2 spells as a witch doctor, 3, I think. 2. So I'm going to take Poison Dart, of course, and Zombie Dogs. So the way I want to build out my witch doctor is I want him to be unkillable, and I want other people to fight for me. So not only can you select a skill, but in Diablo 3 you can modify them all with a runestone. This is the socketing that you do. There will also be socketing for items as well. But so I'm going to, you can socket your dart to make it, have a chance to turn the dart into a snake. You can make it do fire damage. But what I want to do is I want to do it so that every time I hit someone, I gain 290 mana. So that way I can keep myself constantly fed with mana so that I can summon my badass zombie dogs. My zombie dogs, I'm going to give a rune that allows them to leech life. So that way, again, I'm going for a build that makes me unkillable. This is assuming for what I'm going to be at level 10 right now. Is how I'm building myself out.
Now, are you building yourself out with solo play in mind or group play right now?
I'm building myself out with solo play in mind.
Okay.
I do plan on eventually playing with a group, but for now I want to do solo.
So this is just purely you're thinking of survivability and damage and being able to keep going without ever slowing down.
Exactly. I want to just be a machine that is constantly getting life and mana. So my next spell is going to be Haunt, which is another direct damage spell because I'm still relying on my zombie dogs to shield me. And then for that one, I'm going to get Consuming Spirit. It gives me, the spirit returns 45% of damage done as life to me. So now, in theory, I should be leeching a ton of life and mana. And my first passive skill, I'm going to get 10% of my maximum mana whenever I'm healed by a health globe. Because mobs in Diablo 3 will actually occasionally drop little bits of health.
Yeah, it's like health power up. You still have potions, but potions are on a really long cooldown, and so to keep yourself going and sort of prevent the standing around waiting for your health to regenerate, enemies now drop health globes.
Exactly. So again, I'm going, my whole build is all about just constantly cranking up mana health, mana health. All right, so that's how I want to be built out when I'm level 10.
Cool.
When I hit 20, the second passive ability I want to take is Zombie Handler, where now I can have 4 zombie dogs. I really want to keep the zombie dog theme going on because they're so great.
So you want to be like a zombie pack handler.
Exactly. And so at this point, when it comes to level 12 spells, I'm going to go back and take a level 2 spell, Plague of Toads.
Okay.
And this one I'm going to put a Toad of Hugeness rune on, which allows me to have one giant toad that can swallow enemies.
So rather than have a whole plague of them, it's just one giant toad.
One giant toad. I really think that sounds really great. And then
not much of a plague. It's just like a toad.
Yes. The direct damage spell I want to take, because like I said, I'm going back and forth between summon and direct damage. I want to do Soul Harvest, which is where I get to take attack damage. Basically, I gain attack for each enemy I'm affecting.
Okay.
And on top of that, I take a rune where I get to swallow soul and gain a ton of mana. So that's level 20. So
it sounds like by this point, you're looking at, for every enemy that you're fighting, you want to be able to fight them a little stronger.
Yes, and so at this point, I plan on maybe, if I need to do a little bit of direct damage, because later in the game I can, but if nothing else, again, I'm just survivable. If they get close, I can punch someone at this point.
Okay.
And then at level 30, the final one I want to take is Death Trance. Reduce my damage by 20% whenever I'm below 50% of my maximum life. So if I ever do get low, again, I become even more unkillable.
Yeah.
And then the last power-up I wanted to take was the Gargantuan, which I would get at level 18, but I actually wanted to kind of wait till the end, which is just to summon a gigantic zombie to fight for me. And him, I wanted to give a Restless Giant rune, which basically makes him, anytime I'm fighting an elite enemy, he becomes much more powerful. So he's
like
basically like my oh crap button. Exactly. If I'm ever fighting, I'm really in trouble because he costs a lot of mana. I can just bust him out.
Nice. Sounds good.
So that is kind of my Diablo 3 build. And then now we're going to have Nick kind of walk you through his idea for his monk build that he wanted to do.
Exactly. So, monks, they're sort of like a hybrid tank healer class, sort of like World of Warcraft's paladin in a lot of ways. They've got a lot of disabling abilities. I'm ignoring almost all of those. My idea, because Diablo 3 is going to be hordes and hordes and hordes of enemies, lots and lots and lots of area of effect damage. That's my idea. So for level 1, I'm starting off with the Fists of Thunder. and I'm also going to take my second, at level 8, I get Crippling Wave, which is sort of like an arc attack. This is prior to level 10. At level 1, I'm probably just going to take Blinding Flash, because that's like the only other option.
So right now the powers you're taking, though, are basically ones that allow you to attack groups of enemies well.
Yeah, well, right now, these at their core, these are sort of single and small group abilities. I'm going to tweak them to make them big group abilities. For Fist of Thunder, I plan on taking the Thunderclap runestone.
So each one causes a shockwave that hits everyone around.
Every single attack becomes an AoE, like area of effect, a blast of damage. And I'm going to follow that up with the Crippling Wave. I'm going to get the Concussion runestone. That's to sort of keep myself from taking too much damage while I'm AoEing everybody down. And I'm following that up with the Breath of Heaven activated ability. So these two, the first two spells build up my spirit, which is sort of my resource, and lets me spend it on much more powerful abilities. This will keep me up, but I can also cause it to cause my enemies to sort of flee around me, keeping myself safe and healing myself and causing them some damage.
I see. So you're relying on the first two abilities here to do a ton of damage to give you spirit that then you can use to heal yourself with your Breath of Heaven spell.
Exactly, yeah. For level 10 passives, it's sort of slim pickings here. I've got an ability that just reduces the amount of damage I take every time I deal damage, which is, perfect for AoE because I'm doing...
You're constantly doing a ton of damage, constantly reducing your own damage intake.
And this, which it's dependent on what kind of weapon I use, but there's sort of statistical bonuses. I'm going to go with the more general one, which is just going to keep me up. Before I hit level 20, I'm looking at... There are a few options here, but survivability is sort of a main goal in mind. When you're doing AoE, you're going to be taking a lot of damage from a lot of enemies all the time.
Especially, I mean, your guy's up in their face character,
exactly.
So he has to get close.
Constant melee. So I want to take the focus off of me, so I'm going to be taking Lethal Decoy, which drops like a clone of my character. I'm going to make that clone explosive.
It's the red one.
It's the one. So they'll be attacking it, eventually explode in their face, all the while I'm behind them doing lots and lots and lots of damage. I'm going to follow that up with Sweeping Wind. This is, every time I use this ability, a vortex of air appears around me and just does constant AoE damage all around me. And it stacks up, so it'll do more and more damage the more I use it. I'm going to make it so it's got a gigantic range and deals way more damage with Firestorm. This, again, this is just sort of like keeping enemies around me, keeping them distracted, keeping myself up, and constant damage all around me.
Basically, you're relying, since you know you're going to be playing by yourself with this first build you're doing, you're relying on the fact that you're going to be able to take out huge waves and survive it. You're looking for survivability and high damage output to groups.
That's exactly right. In terms of passives for the monks seem they're very support based. They're all sort of focused on my survivability. So because I'm gonna be focused on doing so much damage, I'm gonna take the one passive which increases my survivability by increasing my damage.
Seize the initiative.
Exactly.
Defense is increased by 25% of your attack.
So I take that. That way, all I really need to focus on in terms of gear is attack. The more attack I have, the longer I'll live. My final ability, I'm still sort of up in the air about this one because there's a few options that look really cool. For example, Inner Sanctuary.
Well, and we should note that the great thing in Diablo 3 will be that you can switch out these abilities at any time.
Exactly.
So if Nick does pick this, it's not like you're going to be locked into it forever.
And in fact, if you come up against an encounter like a boss where area of effect spells are going to be kind of useless, I can go for more focused damage style straight off the bat. But Inner Sanctuary strikes me as really interesting because it creates a circle which is just going to keep enemies in. And I thought that could be really cool when
keeping them close so that you can do all your AoEs.
Exactly. Now I can combine that with a thing that deals them damage as soon as they're locked in, or I can combine it with something that will keep me up or heal me. I'm still up in the air about this.
It seems kind of like doing it with regeneration would be really a great way to do it. You lock them in, you have a ton of regeneration, and you're just beating on them.
And that would be definitely a great idea for like a group situation because all of my allies could get inside there and we just pummel them. So yeah, there's a lot of different options here. I'm probably going to either take the protective one because I've got a heal already, or the regeneration one just to sort of keep me steadily up.
So when you first look at the amount of powers you have, it might be a little disappointing until you realize that these runestones effectively add a ridiculously large amount of powers.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Fist of Thunder, for example, it's just sort of like a standard damaging attack, and it has the ability to interrupt occasionally. Okay, that's fine. When you add a runestone that deals damage everywhere, or you know, regenerate your spirit so that you're constantly using special abilities. I mean, these abilities, after you've attached a runestone, can do a lot, and that is really where your character customization comes from.
Yeah, I mean, your monk and my monk could have the exact same base powers, active skills, but then could play totally differently based on the
completely different
runestones that we put in.
focuses. You might be like a tank or a healer, and I'm AOE damage or you know, debuffs. There are spells in here that distract enemies and cause them to attack each other. There's a lot you can do. In terms of my passive skill, again, like at level 30, I've got so many options. I'm not really sure what I want to take. I'm probably going to take the...
well, clearly the bottom tier one's always the best, right?
Well, maybe. One with everything looks really cool to me, because then I only have to stack one kind of magic resistance, and all of my magic resistance is increased.
Because in Diablo, you might have to deal with fire.
Exactly.
Cold, fire, you know, and so if you stack one resistance cold, all of a sudden with that power, you could have a high resistance to everything.
Exactly, and oftentimes I bet you'll find enemies where it's like fire imps and ice mages all clumped together, and you may be protected against one, but you'll be taking a huge amount of damage from the other. I've got all my bases covered with this.
So again, both Nick and I are going for survivability. In the comments, you guys should totally let us know if you hate our builds and what sort of builds you guys are all doing. And you should keep it locked to IGN for all the upcoming Diablo 3 coverage, the beta, review, and beyond.